Over on this side, it's pretty much the same as the other side. The only difference is I've got two leads being fed right here. One's coming out of the telemetry battery into an EC2 connector, and the second RX battery. And for most of you, you're probably scratching your head right now saying, well, wait a minute, I thought the receiver and the servos only need one battery. Why do you have two running? And it's simply redundancy. If one battery fails, you've got the other one. Plus, it doubles your milliamp if you wire them in parallel. So I can go a lot longer in between charges because I've got more amperage stored up for use. Little homemade thing here was the antenna holders. I simply took stainless steel T-pins, cut off half of the T, spread them apart a little bit, and stuck some shrink wrap tube on it just to hold the antenna lead in. The reason I did this is because your satellite antenna needs to be at 90 degrees and on a different plane than these. So by putting the antenna holders in there, it keeps these primary antennas on the same plane, and then of course my satellite antenna is 90 degrees and runs vertical back here. Plus, you're supposed to keep the left antenna of your satellite free and clear of carbon fiber, metal, and that sort of thing, so it sticks down below the bottom plate, so it won't have any interference in there. Wiring's pretty clean. I mean, one thing you probably don't notice because they're not there is there's no wire ties anywhere on this Heli. Was able to secure the wires using the hot glue and shrink method, and got rid of all the wire ties, so it's a nice clean install. Couple upgrades I didn't mention is the Quick UK magnetic mounts for the front. Makes it a whole lot easier to pop on the canopy, but for security you need something a little bit beefier in the back, so this is Heli Options push style, where you push the pin and the bolt goes in and locks. And so I don't have to worry about it being magnetic on the front because these are not coming off, even if the magnetics would happen to, although I've never had it happen, and I've been running magnetics on the 600 for a year or so. Alright, we'll take one more peek inside in just a second. Another very noticeable feature is the telemetry unit, which is comfortably tucked away back in there in the frame. The leads come out and also are shared with the satellite, and they plug into the AB switch out here, the off-on switch that I talked to you about. So nice little tidy wiring job to keep all that compact and organized, so that my battery connector, when I slide the big batteries in, the big tray of batteries right there, when I slide those in, it clears and goes right through the center, and so everything's tucked away. The telemetry unit itself, up here, mounted on the basement floor, and of course the antenna is secured nicely up here in front with a couple loose fitting shrink wrap tubes. I need this to move, but I don't want it to go any further than that. That way, in case I bump it, it doesn't come undone. So it's loose fitting here, but it is tighter and more secured right back here at this point. Okay, and just another side shot. I didn't realize this camera wasn't autofocus, so I'll come back and get a couple shots of like the turnbuckles. Let me see if I can focus in on these. That made it worse. So I'll back, there we go. Much better shot of the turnbuckles. and the Heli option mounts. Better shot of those. I showed you a video of it, but I didn't explain it, and that was the one-way bearing that's inside the gears. The housing, the hub itself, has been replaced with a KDE upgrade, and the reason is the the aluminum ones that come from Align have had some leakage problems with grease squirting out, where the KDEs are made out of steel. So I upgraded to the KDE steel hub. It uses the same gear, one-way bearing inside of it. So you just pop out the one-way bearing from the Align and pop it into the KDE head. Okay? Thanks for taking the tour. One of our last features is the blade grips and head. Inside the head are the Lynx Heli green and white dampers in here. They're a different composite than Align's dampers. There's been some reports of people having a very short lifespan with the Align dampers. In other words, the dampers aren't lasting long enough, about less than 20 flights, where the Lynx Heli dampers are holding up a lot better, so I popped a set of those in there. Just a little tour of the inside of those switches so you can get an idea of the wiring. You see the little wire coming down to the telemetry unit with the red on it. That's red for positive, black for negative, and those are EC2 connectors without the plastic case. I just used them as bullets. And the telemetry unit and my voltage sensor that plugs into the 12S connector right below it. So, and the rudder, standard setup, no changes there. Another feature I wanted to mention was the skid plates. Not hard to make. I just ran down to the hardware, grabbed some brass tubing. You take about 1/3 of the circumference out of it, and they'll snap right around the landing gear here. And then the 1/3 piece that I removed, I simply attached it to the bottom with glue. And so it's a little double thickness right there, where it's going to be on the ground all the time. And if it wears through, I still have another layer here on the outside. And so it protects the skids, lets them last a little longer. Another note would be the extra reinforcements I put in terms of the bolts. You have the hexagonal bolts that run through the Heli, like this one back here. And we simply added some throughout the Heli. There's one here, here, up here. Another one down here in the back, and we did that just to beef up the frame, just so that everything was a little more rigid, and you get less flexing in the frame system and don't have to worry about that sort of thing. The other great feature about adding these two in the front, there's one here and there's one up here, was the fact that it gives you some guides for your wires. So if you need your wires to go a certain route, you can run them above or below these extra hex bolts and get them to go where you want them to go. And for example, if we get up here, you know, I really needed these wires to be exactly in the right place and hold in a certain position. And we were able to achieve that by using some of those bolts as a guideline. So the little strip here, by the way, is Velcro on top of the receiver, on top of the connectors right there, and that keeps them all held into place and keeps them from vibrating and falling out. So, well, hey, I hope you enjoyed the little debut tour there of the Align Trekker from HeliGriff.